disturbing to hear these things or to kind of see some of the receipts that appear to be connected to it.
Dolton, Illinois, has found itself in the midst of a political disaster under the leadership of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose re-election campaign and overall tenure have devolved into a chaotic spectacle. What was once a town with potential has become a living reality TV show, with Henyard at the center of the mess. While her campaign promises focus on winning over voters and addressing community concerns, anyone paying attention can see that her leadership has turned into a series of grandiose PR stunts rather than any genuine attempt at public service take. For example, Henyard's attempt to win over voters by giving away thousands of turkeys for Thanksgiving, a move so blatant that it almost seems comical. After winning her first term by a landslide, Henyard's leadership quickly descended into turmoil. Her approval rating plummeted to a historic low of just 3%. A recent snowstorm that hit Dolton revealed her complete lack of preparedness. As the town was buried under feet of snow, businesses were forced to close, and residents were stranded. Henyard, meanwhile, was busy posting selfies on social media, blaming the weather for her inaction rather than taking responsibility. This is just one of many examples of her ineptitude despite holding two public positions, Mayor Dolton and a public official in South Suburban Cook County. Henyard's town continues to crumble under her watch. Residents are frustrated, businesses are struggling, and the trust in her leadership is all but gone. Her campaign promises now seem hollow, reduced to hollow gestures as she makes rounds to local churches in a desperate attempt to secure support. All the while, she collects paychecks from two public positions her face is now plastered across the city, drawing comparisons to notorious figures like Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela, a comparison that is quickly becoming all too accurate. But the situation is even worse than anyone realized. A preliminary analysis conducted by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot uncovered alarming financial mismanagement within Henyard's administration. The report revealed that Henyard used village credit cards for her personal purchases at stores like Wayfair, Amazon, Target, and Walgreens, racking up bills that raise serious questions about her ethics and transparency. What's worse is that the village is facing a significant shortfall, with over $3.6 million unaccounted for. This financial debacle has drawn the attention of federal investigators, who have now launched a full-scale investigation into Henyard's actions. They've even requested bank records and other vital information. What began as a local issue is now becoming a federal matter, with potentially devastating consequences for Henyard's political future. If the investigation uncovers criminal activity, it could spell the end of her career. Federal investigations often take months or even years, meaning Henyard could be facing the end of her tenure if enough evidence is found to warrant criminal charges. As if this weren't enough, Henyard's leadership style has only worsened the situation. Known for her explosive temper and contentious interactions with both residents and fellow officials, her inability to manage her emotions has only deepened the chaos. The more she attempts to salvage her image with empty gestures and public appearances, the more her incompetence and erratic behavior are exposed. One of the most bizarre incidents came during a town council meeting when Henyard dressed up as Nino Brown, the infamous drug lord from New Jack City. To make matters even more surreal, she had a DJ play Ransom and Better Have My Money, turning what should have been a routine governmental session into an absurd spectacle. Henyard's approach to leadership has only fueled instability and confusion in Dolton, and her disregard for professionalism has left many residents discouraged. Local businesses are now suffering, with some even claiming Henyard's administration is actively retaliating against them. For instance, Lawrence Gardner, the owner of a trucking company, alleges that Henyard shut down his business after he refused to make a substantial campaign contribution to her re-election bid. This kind of behavior has caused many businesses to leave Dolton, seeking more stable environments for growth. What was once a thriving community has descended into dysfunction, with more and more residents searching for opportunities elsewhere. Numerous other residents have shared their experiences of harassment and intimidation from Henyard and her supporters. This has left many wondering if Dolton will ever recover from the damage caused by her leadership. The local government is in disarray, with key council members like Chris Gonzalez and Carmen Carroll frequently absent from meetings. When these meetings do occur, they are often rescheduled to larger venues to accommodate the growing number of residents who are turning up to demand answers. The anger and frustration are palpable, and it's clear why many people have lost faith in Henyard's ability to govern. Her inability to manage the town efficiently, combined with her fixation on drama and self-promotion, has pushed local businesses and residents to the brink. At this point, many residents have begun openly questioning why Henyard hasn't resigned, calling her a disgrace to the community. Her leadership style has created an environment where even basic government functions are crumbling, and her blatant disregard for the people she was elected to serve is impossible to ignore. Tensions between Henyard and her town's residents have reached a breaking point. Accusations of financial mismanagement and overstepping her authority have become commonplace, with trustees and council members routinely challenging her decisions. These meetings have grown so heated that they often end in chaos, reflecting the deep rift between Henyard and the people she was meant to lead. The town's future is now uncertain, with Dolton in desperate need of a leader who can inspire confidence and restore order. Yet under Henyard's rule, such leadership seems out of reach. In short, the situation in Dolton is dire. What was once a promising community is now a city in disarray, with residents and businesses struggling to survive under a leadership that has failed them at every turn. The community deserves better, but as the situation continues to worsen, it's unclear if Dolton will ever recover from the damage caused by its once promising mayor. Henyard's re-election bid, now marred by scandal, incompetence, and federal investigations, may very well be the final chapter in her disastrous political career.
We are not able to pay bills. We are not able to have...
Tiffany Henyard's leadership in Dolton, Illinois, has continued to spiral into chaos, alienating the very residents she was elected to serve and pushing the town to the brink of collapse. Her inability to manage the town effectively, coupled with a glaring disregard for the community's needs, has left residents feeling frustrated and disillusioned. Once a promising and thriving community, Dolton is now defined by constant drama, financial mismanagement, and an increasingly authoritarian atmosphere under Henyard's administration. Lavish parties, empty promises, and almost complete lack of accountability have left the people of Dolton feeling ignored and unrepresented. Henyard's leadership has been marked by arrogance, unchecked authority, and a series of missteps that have eroded the trust of residents. Public outrage against Henyard has reached a boiling point, with some calling her tenure a disgrace to the town and demanding her resignation. One resident pointed out that Henyard's refusal to listen to reason has been a major factor contributing to the ongoing dysfunction in Dolton. These concerns are shared by many who are fed up with Henyard's failure to govern responsibly and her inability to prioritize the well-being of the community. As Henyard's leadership unravels, she has become one of America's most notorious mayors, a figure whose controversies and incompetence far outweigh any personal struggles. The entire village is now paying the price for her disastrous leadership. Tensions between Henyard and the village trustees have reached a fever pitch, with the trustees accusing her of financial mismanagement and overstepping her authority. Meetings between the mayor and the trustees have become so contentious that they are now being moved to larger venues to accommodate the increasing number of residents showing up to voice their concerns. These meetings have become a microcosm of the fractured relationship between Henyard and the people she was elected to lead, a situation that seems only to worsen with each passing day. What was once viewed as a promising leadership opportunity has devolved into total chaos, deepening the divide between the mayor and her constituents. Many residents are now asking how much longer this mismanagement can continue before the town reaches a breaking point. "We just want responsible adult communication and to do the right thing for the city," said one concerned resident. But instead of offering the leadership Dolton desperately needs, Henyard has continued to make headlines for all the wrong reasons. Her controversial attempt to appoint a new police chief, for instance, sparked fierce opposition from trustees and further exacerbated the already tense situation, adding fuel to the fire. Legal challenges have plagued Henyard's administration. A Cook County court recently overturned several of Henyard's key appointments, including the hiring of Michael Smith as executive assistant and special counsel, declaring them invalid. These legal setbacks, combined with the growing rift between Henyard and the trustees, have further highlighted the dysfunction within her administration. Ironically, while Henyard has become a symbol of mismanagement at the local level, her personal financial troubles have also made headlines, showing a disturbing pattern of irresponsibility. Henyard's personal finances have become a source of controversy, with her landlord filing a lawsuit against her for unpaid rent, accusing the mayor of failing to pay thousands of dollars. This financial debacle stands in stark contrast to Henyard's history of mismanaging taxpayer funds and raises serious questions about her ability to handle the town's budget. It's almost unthinkable that someone entrusted with the responsibility of managing Dolton's finances could be so negligent in managing her own. This pattern of personal financial struggles combined with professional mismanagement only exposes the deeper level of dysfunction in Dolton's government rather than addressing the town's needs. Henyard has lavished taxpayer dollars on extravagant personal desires. One particularly egregious example was a lavish party reportedly costing $85,000, which featured rapper Jay Holiday and R&B singer K. Michelle. This extravagant celebration took place at a time when Dolton was buried in debt, and residents were struggling under economic hardship. The audacity of using public funds to fund personal indulgences has left many in Dolton stunned. Instead of prioritizing the needs of the town, Henyard has used her position to further her own interests, all while ignoring concerns of the very people who rely on her to serve them this behavior, ranging from financial mismanagement to public scandals and ongoing legal battles, is not an isolated incident. It has become a consistent pattern throughout her administration. Henyard's failure to listen to the residents, her refusal to be held accountable, and her obsession with promoting her own image at the expense of Dolton's well-being have left the people feeling helpless, betrayed, and increasingly disillusioned. The leadership they once hoped for has dissolved into an endless series of public relations stunts and self-serving decisions as the legal challenges mount and public outrage grows. It is becoming increasingly clear that Henyard's re-election campaign is less about serving the people of Dolton and more about self-preservation. Maintaining power and avoiding the consequences of her own actions seem to be her primary goals. The ongoing financial and legal problems that have plagued her tenure suggest that her leadership is beginning to unravel, and the town is suffering as a result. The urgency for accountability and responsible governance has never been more apparent. Residents are left wondering how much longer they can tolerate the dysfunction that has become the hallmark of Henyard's leadership. The clock is ticking, and Henyard's reign is increasingly defined by scandal, incompetence, and a blatant abuse of power. It's evident that Dolton deserves better leadership that can responsibly manage the town's finances, listen to concerns of its residents, and restore trust in local government. The residents of Dolton have endured far too much under Henyard's administration, and with each passing day, her grip on power weakens. The community is left to pick up the pieces of a fractured town, and the question now is whether the people and the political establishment will take the necessary steps to remove Henyard from office before the damage becomes irreversible. Her tenure has become a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of holding elected officials accountable for their actions. If Henyard is truly interested in serving the people of Dolton, she must step away from the constant drama and self-preservation, take responsibility for her actions, and focus on repairing the damage she has caused. However, as it stands, her desperate clinging to power seems more likely to deepen the divide and worsen the already precarious situation in the town. The residents of Dolton have suffered long enough, and with each passing day, their patience grows thinner. As the political and legal fallout continues to mount, it is becoming clearer that the people of Dolton can no longer afford to wait for change. They must demand accountability. And it's time for Henyard to step down, allowing Dolton the opportunity to rebuild and move forward under leadership that prioritizes the community's well-being over personal ambitions. The time for action is now, and the future of Dolton depends on it.
I don't care if you agree or disagree, but you must show up.
As the saga of Tiffany Henyard's leadership in Dolton, Illinois, continues to unfold, YouTube viewers have been weighing in on the ongoing drama, sharing their thoughts on the chaotic state of the town and its leadership. These comments offer a telling glimpse into the frustrations of the community and the growing public discontent with Henyard's administration. One commenter highlighted the narrow margin by which Henyard won the most recent election, just a few hundred votes. This is an important reflection of the power dynamics within Dolton and underscores the significant influence residents have over their own future. The slim victory margin shows that, should enough residents come together, they have the power to oust Henyard and demand a change in leadership, something many now view as desperately needed for the future of the town. This realization provides a glimmer of hope to the people of Dolton. Change is possible if the community can mobilize, organize, and unite around a common cause of removing Henyard from office. The comment reveals that while Henyard's leadership has fractured the community, it has also ignited a desire among residents to take control of their town's future and restore some semblance of order and accountability. Another comment struck a chord with residents' growing sense of frustration with the lack of accountability from higher authorities. The commenter asked a key question: why have senior officials allowed Henyard's poor management to go unchecked for so long? This concern touches on a broader issue within Illinois politics. The failure of state and federal authorities to intervene in Henyard's disastrous tenure has only compounded the issues plaguing Dolton. Scandals and turmoil have run rampant for years, and yet higher-level officials have done little to address the clear dysfunction in the town's leadership. The apparent inaction from those in power only serves to deepen the public's distrust in the political system, further exacerbating the situation in Dolton. As residents watch this leadership crisis unfold, the lack of intervention from the state and federal government raises questions about the effectiveness of checks and balances in preventing such dysfunction. It seems as though no one is stepping in to address the mounting grievances, and this lack of oversight fuels growing discontent with the political elite. The public feels increasingly abandoned as they struggle to navigate a local government that is failing them at every level. Exacerbating Dolton's frustration is a troubling development in the neighboring township that underscores the larger issues in Dolton. A major local company, one that could have significantly boosted the local economy, encountered an obstacle, not due to weather, logistical issues, or external factors, but because two local trustees refused to support the project. Their failure to contribute to advancing the initiative is a glaring example of the political paralysis that has gripped Dolton, where personal agendas and petty political gains have taken precedence over the needs of the community. This refusal to work together and collaborate for the greater good is emblematic of the dysfunction that pervades the town's leadership. Instead of focusing on pragmatic solutions that would benefit Dolton, local officials are stuck in a cycle of infighting, hindering any efforts to move the town forward. The inability of these elected officials to set aside their differences and prioritize the needs of the people has left residents feeling helpless, frustrated, and ignored. What should be a straightforward process of collaboration has become a battleground for personal power struggles and political gamesmanship. This issue is not just about poor leadership. It is a deep-rooted problem within the town's political culture. The local leadership values individual power over progress, and the people are the ones suffering as a result. This disconnect between the priorities of elected officials and the needs of Dolton residents has become more apparent with each passing day. Instead of addressing pressing issues, the town's leadership is more concerned with maintaining power and influence, leaving the community to pick up the pieces of their inaction. The Henyard administration's constant scandals and legal disputes only further expose the ineptitude at the top. Delayed, obstructed, or outright rejected decisions have become the norm, preventing the town from moving forward. This ongoing chaos highlights the urgent need for real leadership. Leaders who can make difficult decisions, prioritize the needs of the community, and drive Dolton toward a better future. The residents of Dolton are no longer asking for minor improvements. They are demanding a fundamental change in leadership and a break from the endless cycle of corruption, inefficiency, and dysfunction. The public's growing frustration with Henyard's administration has been fueled by the leadership's failure to address the town's most pressing problems. Persistent financial mismanagement, constant legal battles, a lack of transparency and accountability have taken a heavy toll on Dolton's residents. The trust that once existed between the community and its elected officials has all but evaporated. Henyard's poor decision-making and inability to govern effectively have left the town in a state of disarray. Residents are no longer willing to sit idly by and tolerate her leadership. They are demanding answers, and they are ready for change as the next election looms. The stakes for Dolton's future have never been higher. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's re-election bid, which was once seen as a potential fresh start for the town, now appears to be little more than a desperate attempt to avoid the inevitable consequences of her actions. Henyard's administration has been mired in scandal, court cases, and setbacks, leaving Dolton citizens disillusioned and angry. The ongoing FBI investigation into her administration has only intensified public outrage, particularly regarding her financial mismanagement and her overall weak leadership. Henyard's tenure as mayor has become a textbook case of political incompetence. Her once supportive political allies are now distancing themselves from her as more evidence of her incapacity continues to surface. This shift in support from her own allies speaks volumes about the erosion of trust and the growing realization that Henyard is incapable of leading the town out of its current turmoil. The real question facing Dolton, however, is not whether Henyard's political future is crumbling. At this point, it seems almost certain that her reign will soon come to an end. The bigger issue is whether Dolton's political system will undergo the necessary reforms to ensure that the town is never again subjected to such disastrous leadership. The community has made it clear that it is fed up with the ongoing cycle of incompetence, financial mismanagement, and broken promises. The mounting pressure on Henyard's administration has made it increasingly unlikely that she will be able to weather the storm and retain any semblance of credibility. Her re-election campaign is quickly becoming a last-ditch effort to salvage her political career, and even if she manages to secure another term, the damage to her reputation and the public's faith in her leadership may be irreparable. With each passing day, the residents of Dolton are making it clear that they are no longer willing to tolerate her disastrous leadership. The public is ready for a change, and the FBI investigation has only added to the pressure for Henyard to step down. As Henyard's leadership continues to crumble, Dolton citizens are demanding a shift in direction. They are no longer willing to accept the endless cycle of scandal and mismanagement that has defined her time in office. The question is not whether Henyard's tenure will come to an end, but when and how it will happen. Will she be able to survive the mounting legal challenges and public outcry, or will the pressure ultimately force her out? What is clear, however, is that Dolton is at a crossroads. The community's frustration is reaching a boiling point, and the political climate is ripe for change. Whether Henyard can cling to power or not, Dolton's future depends on whether its residents and political figures can rise above the dysfunction and demand the leadership they need. The demand to change has already been voiced, and as Henyard's grip on power weakens, the time for action has arrived. Dolton can no longer afford to remain mired in scandal, incompetence, and poor governance. The people have spoken, and it is only a matter of time before the demand for change becomes too powerful to ignore. The question now is whether Dolton will take the necessary steps to break free from the cycle of dysfunction, or whether the town will continue to spiral into further turmoil under Henyard's leadership. As the community waits for answers, it's clear that the future of Dolton hinges on the residents' ability to demand the change they so desperately need. Thank you for watching Celeb News.